Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today's layout is for Bramble Fox, and I'm using some of the goodies from the September Fox box and also some goodies that are newly released to the store this month. So that set there is the Pastel Hearts, that's new to the store, and then I've got this set here from my Fox box, which includes those gorgeous hot air balloons. I've also pulled out the travel globes set, but I don't end up using those on this layout, so I've popped those to one side. So this layout was totally inspired by those hot air balloon perspectives. As soon as I saw them in the release, I knew what I wanted to do. This layout just came to life in my head, and it was just a case of waiting for my goodies to arrive through the post so that I could bring it to life on the page. So I've got a template here of a hot air balloon. I just googled hot air balloon drawings and got an image from the internet, because every time I tried to draw one myself it didn't work. It just looked awful, and I really needed this to be symmetrical. So I've just printed that off onto white paper and just drawing around it. I'm using the Simple Stories Vintage Coastal collection for this. I'm going to pull out some of the pink and blue tones to match the hot air balloons, and I just think they work perfectly. You'll see at the beginning I've got two photos on my desk. I was a bit undecided on which one to use at the beginning. In the end I've gone for one of my little boy wearing kind of like a turquoisey t-shirt, and he's eating ice cream, and I've gone with that one because I think the colours match this collection perfectly. So what I've done, I've picked out two papers. I've got one which is a pink colour and one which is kind of like a turquoisey blue colour, and I've just drawn two of those hot air balloons on each papers. I've drawn it on the back so you won't see my pen marks, and I'm just cutting those out. So I've got two of each colour, and then I'm going to make a 3D hot air balloon for my layout. So there's my 4 balloons. I'm now going to fold them in half with the good side, the side I want showing on the inside. And as I was doing this and sticking them together, I actually changed how I'd originally planned to do this. So I'm folding them all down the centre, and then I'm going to stick them together. So initially I had planned to completely stick the sides down so that there was no sort of gap in between. I started off putting a bit of tape down the centre like that, as you saw there, and sticking them together, and I'd planned to go back at the end with wet glue and just stick the edges of the actual balloon down, sort of the rounded curved end. But once I'd opened this out and had a look at it, I actually really liked the fact that you could see those other papers, sort of the black and white tones, peeking out in between. I really liked that. So I ended up not sticking any further than that and just leaving it so that you've got actually more layers on the balloon. I had planned to distress the edges, but I'd forgotten to do it before I stuck them all together. So now, as you can see, I'm a bit fiddly, but I'm just having to go around and distress all of those edges with my distressing tool. So I'll just skip through the rest of that for you, and now I have a decision to make. Do I want the blue paper showing on the top of my balloon or the pink paper? So I'm just having a play with it at the moment, trying to just spread the layers out and trying to decide which colour I want on top. And it's just at this point I decide to go with the photo of my little boy eating ice cream, because that green paper matches his shirt quite well. You can see all the layers there, it's absolutely lovely. Tell you what, this would be a fab idea if you wanted to make some sort of 3D hanging embellishments to do something like this. It would look super pretty, maybe in a nursery or something. But mine's going to be stuck down flat to the page. Obviously it's very dimensional. When it goes in my album, I will be careful to flatten the sides down so they don't get crushed. So although it'll look dimensional when it's out of an album, and when I photograph it, when it's in the album it will pretty much go flat, but I'm okay with that, that's not a problem. I'm adding a thin strip of foam just in between the layers, just to help it keep its dimension and not flatten out too much whilst it's out of my album. It actually does keep its shape pretty well. I probably didn't need to do that, if I'm honest, but at the time I thought it might flatten a bit. So now I just want to add some light mixed media to my background. I've pulled out a cut file here. This is by Pear Tree Cut Files, and I'm just using it kind of as a stencil to add some colour to my background. I'm using a blending brush and I've got 2 shades of blue distress inks. So this one here is Salty Ocean, and apologies, you can't really see it on the screen here too well with my lighting. It's quite a light blue colour, and then I go back over it a bit at the end with Stormy Sky, which is a darker shade of blue. But I'll fast forward through this because it actually takes me quite a while to get all of this done. So there we go, now I've got the darker shade on, you can see that a bit better. And I just wanted some clouds on my background because obviously hot air balloons fly in the sky. So I thought clouds would look quite pretty. And then I'm going to make some, just some white clouds to cut out and distress and add those to my background, just for a bit more dimension and a bit more kind of interest, so that there's something going on at the top of the page. I know I'm going to have all my embellishments along the bottom, so I didn't want the top to be too empty, so I've just cut out a couple of white clouds. I'm useless at drawing clouds, and even when I draw them, when I come to cutting them, I tend to change the shape a bit. So I've just cut those out, just rubbing the pencil lines out now, and I'm going to distress the edges of these and just add a very light touch of blue ink to them. So I'm going to use the Salty Ocean distress ink. That's just so that they're not too kind of stark white against the blue ink that I've popped on my background. So I'm going to pop one either side of my balloon like so. I've decided to have my photo to the right of my 3D balloon, and that's because there's a kind of a little bit of more empty space on the left hand side of the photo, so that my balloon can kind of overlap it without going over my little boy's head or his ice cream or anything like that. So I'm going to have that situated to the right of my balloon, and then I'm going to have the balloon perspectives just either side of it, just below. So it kind of looks like they're in the distance in the sky. Just going to work on my photo now. I've mounted it onto white cardstock. I always do that with my photos. I print them 3x4 and then add a layer of white behind to give them some separation from my backgrounds. And then I'm just adding a couple of layers of paper behind. I'm using the same papers that I used for the balloon, so the pink and kind of greeny blue papers. And I'm also, as I always do, distressing the edges of all of those papers. So now I know where things are going to sit, I'm going to start getting them stuck into place. I'm just using double-sided tape for my balloon, and I've decided to have the kind of greeny paper at the top because it matches my little boy's t-shirt really well. So I've gone with the green. I'm just going to stagger the clouds either side there, and then my hot air balloons. Now I need a basket obviously for my 3D balloon. My drawing skills aren't that great. Considering I did GCSE art, you'd think my drawing would be a little bit better, but I've just kind of done a really simple basket shape there. I've used a kind of taupe coloured or mint coloured basil textured cardstock, and I'm currently rummaging through my stash trying to find a brown distress ink, just to add a little bit of kind of shading and detail to that basket. Again, just using a blending brush, sorry, nothing sort of too complicated, it just gives it a bit more detail. And then I'm distressing those edges again, and then I'm going to add in some embroidery threads I'm going to use white thread going from the bottom of my balloon down to the basket. I'm going to do 4 threads in total, so just make a couple of holes and then I'm going to thread that through. It does take me a while to do this, it was quite fiddly, so I am going to skip through it. You'll see how it looks in a minute. So there we go, I skipped through about 5 minutes of footage there for you. It was quite painful. I'm adding some foam behind that basket and I'm pulling it down so that those threads are quite tight. And then I'm going to use the Best Life title perspective from the same set. I love this for my title because my little boy is happiest when he's eating ice cream. He is living his best life. It is the only time he sits still for longer than about a minute, and the only time he's quiet in the entire day. He never stops talking, like ever. give him an ice cream and he's silent for a good 10 minutes. It's brilliant. So he is in his element here on holiday on the beach with his ice cream. I think he's got candy floss flavoured ice cream there. He is definitely living his best life. So I thought that title worked perfectly on this layout. I'm going to add that to the left of my photo there, and now I'm going to build up my embellishments around the bottom of my photo and that title. And I've got all the embellishments for this collection, I think, apart from the chipboard frames. So I've pulled out a long sticker here from, I think, the sticker sheet. I've cut it onto white cardstock. So I stuck it to white cardstock and cut it out because at the moment I'm not too sure where I want things to sit. Obviously by putting it onto card first, it's now not sticky on the back, so I can move them about a bit until I've decided what I want to do. So that one's going to sit along the bottom there. I've pulled out a palm tree, that's from the chipboard sheet. I think I'm just busy now with another couple of stickers, cutting those out from white cardstock. And I'm going to kind of layer those up to the right hand corner of my photo there, and a couple more on the left around that title. So now I've pulled out the kind of ephemera packs and I'm just going through seeing what I can add in. Like I said, my little boy in this photo, we were sat on the beach at Shankling on the Isle of Wight, so that's why I've used this collection, because it's got lovely sort of beachy theme to it. So pulling out some bits here with the palm trees and starfish and things. Trying to build a cluster on the left here that's not going to kind of overpower my title. I still want to be able to see that title. So my layout does end up being more heavily embellished on the right, but I'm quite happy with that because I've got that balloon over to the left that I feel kind of balances it out a bit. So I'm just layering some things up. I'm going to stick foam behind a lot of it just to build a bit of dimension and help them kind of not look so busy on the page, and they kind of get a bit staggered when you add some foam behind, so I quite like that look. Getting my balloon stuck in place now. I always use Glossy Accents for my perspectives. It's really strong stuff. I've never had a perspective fall off a layout yet, so I always tend to use that for them. When you get your perspectives, they'll cut on a laser machine, so they do have a protective film over them. You do need to peel that off. There's been a couple where I've missed it completely and not realised because it's almost been see-through. But yeah, peel those off and then you'll get more detail and shine from your perspectives. And those balloons, they're only got the layout on the back. The front of those balloons have got etched detail on, so beautiful. So you don't get any protective film on the front of those. But they do have so much detail to them. They are super duper cute. So I've just skipped through the rest of the sticking it down process. It's a bit boring to watch. Everything is stuck down in place now, and I've pulled out the Pastel Hearts pack. This one is available to buy in the Bramble Fox store. You don't need a Foxbox subscription for this pack, so anyone can buy this one. The hot air balloon set is part of the Foxbox set, so you will need a subscription for that. You get some exclusive designs each month in your subscription. But like I said, the hearts are available in the store, and some of the colours in this are a perfect match for my hot air balloon in this collection, so I was super happy. So I've just scattered a couple of the pink and blue ones on the bottom of my layout. You'll notice there I pulled in that pink paper at the top of my layout. I feel like it needs something at the top. I was going to put a strip of pink paper, but I didn't think it would look right, so I abandoned that idea. And then I try and finish off my layout with some white splatters. This is just white gesso, watered down. And I do this thinking I'm done, and then I decided to add some more after. So I added some splatters. Now I've realised that the little tag I've slotted in on the right has got a hole and doesn't have anything going through it. And I hate that. I hate tags without anything threaded through. So I've pulled out my embroidery threads and I've found a perfect colour match for that pink shade in the collection. So I've just doubled that over a couple of times and then threaded that through the tag and trimmed it off. And then I'm going to give you some close-ups because I think I'm done. turn the camera off, and then I decide actually I want to add more. So off camera I've added the pink postage stamp that comes in the same set as the hot air balloons and the titled, because it just worked perfectly with this layout. The collection was spot on. So I've added that in. I've also added a couple of twiddles of metallic blue thread. I'm still being bugged by the fact that I want something at the top of my page. So I've decided to go around the edge of the whole page and distress all those edges. And then I'm curling a couple of areas in a bit further. And I'm going to slot some of that pink patterned paper behind it. Now there'll only be a tiny bit visible, but it was just enough. It was just something, and I felt like something was needed. So I add these couple of bits in, and I'm much happier now. I feel like the page is balanced much better. And that is me calling it a day now. I don't add anything else. That is me done. So I'll leave you with some close-ups here. Thank you very much for joining me today. I know it's a slightly longer video than normal, so thank you for sticking with me. I'll pop a couple of links in the description box for you below, to the Bramble Fox store and also the Foxbox subscription page, if you want to check those out. Again, thank you for joining me, and I shall leave you now with the rest of the close-ups.